She offered herself in exchange, not as a captive, but as a test. He passed, and lost everything else. "They'll kill me at first light," she said. So the cowboy rode straight into hell. Part 1. The woman's hands were bound so tight her fingers had gone purple. Blood trickled from her split lip as she pressed against the barn wall, eyes locked on the door where shadows moved. Jake Carter didn't ask questions. He'd been watering his horse at the creek when he heard her scream, and now he was crouched in a hayloft with his rifle aimed at 3 men who didn't know he was there yet. She'd whispered it fast and desperate when he cut her loose 30 seconds ago. "They'll kill me at first light." Her name was Claire Morton, and the men downstairs were her husband's business partners. Former partners. They'd put 2 bullets in him yesterday for skimming money, and now they wanted the ledger she'd hidden, the one that had all their names, all their crimes. Jake watched the biggest one kick over a water barrel. She's got to be close. Check the loft. No time to think. Jake fired once, and the big man went down clutching his shoulder. The other 2 scattered like rats, overturning tables, drawing their pistols. Drake dropped through the loft opening and landed hard, rolled behind a wooden post as bullets chewed into the wood above his head. Claire ran for the back door, but the shorter gunman cut her off, grabbed her by the hair. She screamed. Jake shot him through the leg. The man crumpled, and Claire kicked free, stumbled toward the horses. The 3rd gunman was reloading behind a hay bale, hands shaking. Young guy, maybe 20? Scared eyes. Jake didn't give him a chance to finish. He rushed forward and clubbed him across the jaw with the rifle butt. The kid dropped. Claire was already mounted on Jake's horse, her bound feet dangling. Jake cut the ropes, swung up behind her. The big man was crawling toward his gun, leaving a blood trail. Jake kicked the weapon away and spurred the horse hard. They exploded out of the barn into the moonlight. Behind them, gunfire erupted. Jake felt a bullet whip past his ear. Claire's hands gripped the saddle horn so tight her knuckles were white. They rode east, toward the Badlands, toward the place everyone called Hell's Canyon. 20 miles of desert and stone where the law didn't go and outlaws ran free. The men chasing them had friends there. A whole gang of them.
Claire turned her head, shouted over the wind. "You don't understand."
They'll follow us. There's 12 more at the canyon. My husband stole $50,000 from them. They think I know where it is. Jake's jaw tightened. Do you? Yes. Then we'll need it to buy our way out. She laughed, bitter and sharp. There's no buying your way out of Hell's Canyon. They'll take the money and kill us both. Behind them, riders appeared on the horizon. 4 of them now. The wounded men must have reached their horses. Jake counted the bullets left in his rifle. 6 shots. His revolver had 5. Not enough. Not nearly enough. They rode harder. The ground turned rocky, the air colder. Ahead, the canyon walls rose like broken teeth against the stars. Jake had heard stories about Hell's Canyon. Ambush points every 100 yards. Snipers in the rocks. Bodies buried in shallow graves. The gang there called themselves the Scorpions, and they'd been terrorizing the territory for 5 years. No marshal had ever come back alive. Claire's voice cut through his thoughts. "Why are you helping me?" "Because they were going to kill you. You're going to die for a stranger." Jake didn't answer. He'd been alone for 3 years, ever since his brother was hanged by a corrupt judge. He'd been drifting, looking for something worth dying for. Maybe this was it, maybe not, but he wasn't going to let them kill her without a fight. The canyon mouth loomed ahead, dark and waiting. Behind them, the riders were gaining. Claire reached into her torn dress and pulled out a folded paper, the ledger page. Names, dates, amounts, enough to hang 20 men. "They'll see us coming," she said. "There's a guard post at the entrance." Jake checked his rifle one more time. "Then I guess we'd better ride fast." They plunged into the darkness of Hell's Canyon, and the shooting started immediately. Part 2. The first bullet hit the canyon wall 3 feet to their left, spraying rock chips across Jake's face. He jerked the reins hard right, and the horse stumbled on loose stones but kept running. Claire ducked low against the horse's neck as another shot rang out, this one closer. Jake spotted the muzzle flash high up on the eastern ridge. The guard post. A wooden platform built into the rock face with a perfect view of anyone entering the canyon. He fired twice at the flash. Heard a grunt, then silence. They kept riding. The canyon narrowed, walls rising steep on both sides, blocking the moonlight. Jake's eyes adjusted slowly to the darkness. The path twisted like a snake, barely wide enough for the horse. Behind them, the 4 riders had entered the canyon. Their shouts echoed off the stone. "There's a fork ahead," Claire said, her voice tight. "Left goes deeper into their territory." "Right leads to the old mining camp where the money's hidden?" How far to the camp? 3 miles, but the right path goes past their main settlement. They'll hear us. Jake made the decision fast. We go right, we get the money, then we find a way through. The fork appeared suddenly, marked by a dead tree that looked like a skeletal hand pointing toward heaven. Jake turned right, and the path opened slightly. The horse's hooves beat a steady rhythm on the hard ground. Somewhere ahead, a campfire flickered between the rocks. Voices drifted down. Laughter. The settlement. Jake slowed the horse to a walk. Claire's breathing was rapid against his chest. They moved quietly now, every sound amplified in the narrow space. The campfire grew brighter. Jake could see the settlement now, a cluster of rough shacks and tents built against the northern wall. Men sat around fires, cleaning guns, drinking. He counted 8, maybe 9, all armed. All dangerous. One of them stood, stretched, walked toward the path. He was 20 feet away when he stopped, turned his head, listening. Jake froze. The man took another step closer, his hand dropping to his revolver. Claire held her breath. The man's eyes scanned the darkness, looking right at them. Then someone called from the fire. "Pete, get back here." "Your deal." The man hesitated, then turned away. Jake waited until he was sitting again before moving. They crept past the settlement, 50 feet of exposed ground, where one wrong sound would get them killed. The horse sensed the danger, moved carefully, quietly. They made it past. The path climbed after that, winding up toward a plateau. Jake's legs ached from gripping the horse. Claire pointed ahead to where the canyon wall had collapsed centuries ago, creating a slope of rubble. The mining camp. They dismounted and led the horse up the slope on foot. Loose rocks skittered beneath their boots. Every sound felt like a gunshot. At the top, the ruins of the mining camp spread out before them. Collapsed buildings, rusted equipment, holes in the ground where shafts had caved in. The whole place smelled of decay and old death. Claire moved quickly to a specific building, its roof half gone. She pushed aside rotting boards and dropped into the hole they'd covered. Jake followed. Inside, barely visible in the dim light, was a metal strongbox. She grabbed it, fumbled with the lock. Her hands were shaking too hard. Jake took it from her, shot the lock off with his revolver. The sound exploded through the ruins. The box fell open. Inside, stacks of bills. $50,000. More money than Jake had ever seen. "We have to move," Claire said.
They heard that. She was right.
Voices rose from below. Torches appeared, moving up the path they'd just climbed. Jake stuffed the money into saddlebags, threw them over the horse. They mounted quickly and rode north, away from the approaching men, deeper into the canyon. The terrain got worse. The path became a ledge carved into the cliff face, barely wide enough for the horse. To their right, a drop of 200 feet into darkness. To their left, solid rock. The horse moved carefully, sensing the danger. Behind them, the torches multiplied. 10, 15, 20. The whole gang was mobilizing. "There's only one way out from here," Claire said. "A bridge. Natural stone arch about a mile ahead, but it's guarded."
"Always? How many guards?"
2, usually. But now, with all this noise, they'll have more. Jake's mind raced through options. None of them were good. They couldn't go back. Couldn't climb, couldn't fly. They had to go forward, through whatever waited at the bridge. The ledge widened slightly, and Jake urged the horse faster. The canyon opened into a bowl-shaped area, flat ground surrounded by cliffs. And there, spanning the gap between 2 rock faces, was the bridge, a natural arch of stone, 30 feet long, 5 feet wide. On the far side, freedom. On this side, 3 men with rifles. They saw Jake and Claire immediately.
Raised their weapons. Jake didn't slow down.
He drew his revolver with one hand, kept the reins in the other, fired while riding full speed. The first guard took the bullet in the chest and fell backward. The second one fired back, the bullet passing so close to Jake's head he felt the heat. He fired again, missed. The horse was moving too fast. They aimed too hard. Claire grabbed Jake's rifle from the saddle holster, aimed while bouncing in the saddle, fired. The second guard spun and collapsed. The third one ran, sprinting across the bridge. Jake holstered his revolver and focused on keeping the horse steady as they charged toward the arch. They hit the bridge, at full gallop. The stone was narrow, uneven. The horse's hooves struck sparks. Jake looked down once, saw nothing but darkness below. A fall would mean death. Claire pressed against him, eyes straight ahead. The far side approached. 20 feet, 10 feet, 5. They made it across. The third guard was nowhere in sight, probably running for reinforcements. Jake turned the horse west, away from the main canyon, toward the open desert beyond. Behind them, the mob of torches reached the bowl area. Gunfire erupted, bullets striking the rocks around them.
But they were out of the canyon.
The desert stretched ahead, dark and vast and empty. Jake pushed the horse as hard as he dared. They rode for an hour before he finally slowed, let the animal rest. Claire slid down, legs barely holding her. She sat on a rock, head in her hands. "They'll keep coming," she said. "They'll never stop. Not with that money missing." "Not with that, Ledger." Jake dismounted, checked their supplies. 2 canteens of water, some jerky, the money. The Ledger. His guns. Not much else. The nearest town was 30 miles west. They might make it by tomorrow night if the horse held up. If the gang didn't catch them first. "We need to split up," Claire said suddenly. "You take the money, go south to Mexico. I'll go west with the Ledger, try to reach the Marshal in Silver Creek." "They want both. If we split, maybe one of us makes it." Jake shook his head. "I didn't ride into Hell's Canyon just to leave you in the desert. We stay together. You'll die. Maybe, but not tonight." He helped her back onto the horse. They rode west, toward Silver Creek, toward whatever came next. The sky was getting lighter. Dawn was coming. First light when they were supposed to kill her. But she was still alive, and Jake meant to keep it that way. Part 3. The sun broke over the horizon like a wound, spilling red light across the desert. Jake's eyes burned from no sleep. His throat was dust. The horse was slowing, each step more labored than the last. They'd been riding for 6 hours straight since leaving the canyon, and the animal couldn't keep going much longer. Neither could they. Claire pointed to a formation of rocks ahead, clustered like giant's teeth rising from the sand. "We can rest there. Get some shade." Jake steered toward it. As they got closer, he saw what he'd hoped for, a small pool of water collected in a depression between the rocks. Spring runoff, maybe, or rain from weeks ago? The horse smelled it and picked up pace. They dismounted and let the animal drink while Jake scanned the horizon behind them. Nothing yet, but they were coming. Men like the Scorpions didn't give up. Not over $50,000 and a Ledger that could destroy them. Claire cupped water in her hands, drank deeply, then splashed her face. The blood from her split lip had dried, leaving a dark crust on her chin. She looked exhausted, hollowed out, but her eyes were still fierce. "Tell me about your husband," Jake said, filling the canteens. "Why? Because I rode into Hell's Canyon for you, and I don't even know who you are." She was quiet for a moment, staring at the water. "His name was Henry. We met in St. Louis 5 years ago. He was charming, ambitious, said he was going to make a fortune in the cattle business." She laughed bitter. Turned out his fortune came from stealing from the Scorpions. Small amounts at first. They didn't notice. Then he got greedy. Took $50,000 from a bank transfer they were running. They noticed that. "Why'd you stay with him?" "By the time I knew what he really was, I was already trapped. The Scorpions don't let people walk away. You're either with them or you're dead." Henry thought he was smarter than them, thought he could take the money and disappear. She met Jake's eyes. He wasn't. Jake checked his guns, reloaded the spent rounds, 5 bullets in the revolver. 4 in the rifle. Not enough if they caught up. Not nearly enough. "What about you?" Claire asked. "Why does a man ride into Hell's Canyon for a stranger?" "Told you already." "That's not a reason. That's an excuse." Jake was quiet for a long moment. The sun climbed higher, heat starting to press down. "My brother was a deputy in Carson City. 3 years ago, he arrested a man named Cole Briggs for murder. Had witnesses, had evidence. Open and shut case. But Briggs had money, connections. He paid off the judge, got my brother accused of planting evidence. They hanged him for it." "I'm sorry. Don't be. I killed Briggs 6 months later. Shot him in his own house. Been drifting ever since." He stood, brushed sand from his pants. "When I heard you scream, I figured maybe saving one life might balance taking one. Probably doesn't work that way, but I'm trying anyway." Claire stood too, moved closer. "We're both running from something then. Seems like." A sound carried across the desert. Faint but distinct. Hoofbeats. Multiple horses. Jake's hand went to his rifle. He climbed the tallest rock, looked east. There they were. A line of riders, at least 6, maybe more. Dust cloud behind them. They were 2 miles out, maybe less. coming fast. "Time to move," he said. They mounted and rode west again, pushing the tired horse as much as they dared. The terrain changed as they went, sand giving way to harder ground, scattered brush appearing. In the distance, Jake could see a darker line on the horizon. Trees, maybe, which meant water, which meant people. Caught itself. Stumbled again. Its breathing was ragged, foam flecking its mouth. Jake pulled it to a stop, dismounted. The animal's legs were shaking. "It's done," he said. "Can't run anymore." Claire looked back toward the pursuing riders. They were closer now. A mile, maybe less. She slid down from the horse, pulled the saddlebags containing the money. "We go on foot. They'll catch us in 10 minutes. Then we make a stand." Jake looked around. The ground here offered little cover. A few scattered rocks, some low brush, nothing that would stop bullets. But there was a dry wash about 50 yards ahead, a depression where flash floods had carved a channel. It wasn't much, but it was something. They ran for it, dragging the saddlebags. Jake's boots sank in soft sand. His lungs burned. They dropped into the wash just as the first riders appeared over the rise behind them. 8 men, all armed, all angry. Jake took position behind a rock at the edge of the wash. Claire crouched beside him, took his revolver when he handed it to her. "You know how to shoot?" "Henry taught me." Before he got stupid. The riders spread out as they approached, not rushing in. Smart. They knew they had the advantage. Jake recognized the man in the center, big scarred face wearing a black hat. That was Frank Dawson, the Scorpions' leader. The man who'd ordered Henry Morton killed. The man who wanted Claire dead. Dawson raised a hand, and the riders stopped about 100 yards out. He nudged his horse forward alone, hands visible, no weapon drawn. A parley. Jake didn't trust it, but he didn't shoot either. "You made it farther than I expected," Dawson called out. His voice was rough, like gravel in a can. "Most people die in the canyon. You got all the way to the desert." "Keep talking and you'll die in the desert," Jake called back. Dawson laughed. "I got 8 men. You got what, 5 bullets? 6? You're bleeding time and hope, cowboy. Give me the money and the ledger and I'll let you walk away." The woman stays. "No deal. Then you die here. Everybody dies somewhere." Dawson's smile faded. He turned his horse, rode back to his men. They dismounted, took cover behind their horses and rocks. This was happening. Jake aimed at the nearest target, a thin man with a rifle. He fired first, and the bullet kicked up sand near Jake's head. Jake returned fire, missed. The thin man ducked. Gunfire erupted from multiple positions. Bullets whined through the air, struck rocks, sent sand spraying. Jake fired twice more, saw one man grab his shoulder and fall. Claire shot at another, missed. The dry wash filled with gun smoke and noise. Jake counted shots. He had 2 bullets left in the rifle. Claire had 3 in the revolver. Against 7 men. The math was bad. Then he heard it. A new sound beneath the gunfire. Hoofbeats. Coming from the west, from the direction of the trees. Jake risked a glance and saw them. Riders approaching fast. 6 of them. For a moment, he thought it was more Scorpions. Then he saw the badges. Lawmen. A marshal and 5 deputies, riding hard toward the fight. Dawson saw them too. He shouted something to his men. 3 of them mounted their horses immediately, started riding south, away from the approaching law. The other 4 hesitated, trapped between Jake's position and the incoming marshals. One of them threw down his gun, put his hands up. The others followed. The marshals arrived in a thunder of hooves, surrounded the surrendering Scorpions, guns drawn. The lead marshal was older, gray-bearded, with cold blue eyes that had seen everything. He dismounted, walked toward the wash. "Jake Carter?" Jake stood slowly, rifle lowered but ready. "You know me? Your description came through last month. Wanted for killing Cole Briggs." The marshal's expression didn't change. "But Briggs was dirty, and so was that judge. Territorial governor pardoned you 3 weeks ago." "You didn't know." Jake felt something loosen in his chest. "Been drifting. Didn't know." The marshal looked at Claire. "You must be Claire Morton. We've been looking for you. Found your husband's body. Found evidence linking him and the Scorpions to 6 bank robberies." He gestured toward the surrendering outlaws, including evidence in their own camp that we raided this morning. "We got most of them. These are the last." Claire's legs gave out. She sat hard on the ground, started laughing. Crying. "Both." Jake went to her, helped her up. Dawson was being restrained, hands tied behind his back. He glared at Jake with pure hate. "This isn't over, cowboy. I got friends everywhere." "Your friends are in chains or dead," the marshal said. "The Scorpions are finished." They loaded the captured outlaws onto horses, tied them securely. The marshal took the ledger from Claire, looked through it, nodded with satisfaction. "This'll hang what's left of them. Good work getting it out."
"What about the money?" Claire asked.
"Bank money from the robberies? Has to go back." The marshal's eyes softened slightly. "But the bank's offering a $5,000 reward for its return. That's yours." $5,000. Enough to start over. Jake looked at Claire, saw the same thought in her eyes. The marshal gestured west. "Silver Creek's 10 miles that way. Got a hotel, doctor, telegraph office. You two should rest." He paused. "You did a brave thing, going into Hell's Canyon. Stupid, but brave." Part 4 Silver Creek was nothing like Jake expected. After the violence of Hell's Canyon and the brutal desert chase, he'd imagined something rough and temporary, another dying frontier town. Instead, he found a place trying to become civilized. Wooden sidewalks lined the main street. Glass windows reflected the afternoon sun. A church steeple rose at the north end, and somewhere a piano played. The marshal, whose name was Frank Coleman, led them to the hotel. A real hotel, with carpet in the lobby and a clerk who didn't look at them like they were criminals. Coleman arranged rooms, paid from a territorial fund. He told them to rest, clean up, and meet him at his office in the morning to finalize the reward paperwork. Jake's room was small but clean, a bed with actual sheets, a wash basin with fresh water, a mirror on the wall. He stared at his reflection, dust caked in his beard, blood on his collar from a cut he didn't remember getting. His eyes looked older than they had a week ago. War did that to people. So did Hell's Canyon. He stripped, washed, changed into clothes the hotel provided. His own were ruined. Then he sat on the bed and tried to think about what came next. For 3 years, he'd been running from what he'd done, from Briggs's murder, from the law. Now the law had found him and given him a pardon instead of a rope. He didn't know what to do with that. A knock on the door pulled him from his thoughts. He opened it to find Claire standing there. She'd cleaned up too, wore a simple dress someone had loaned her. The split lip was healing. Her hair was pulled back. She looked like a different person from the desperate woman in the barn. "Can't sleep," she said. "Keep thinking they're coming through the window. They're not coming. They're in chains. I know. But my head doesn't believe it yet." She looked past him into the room. "Can I come in?" "Just to talk. I don't want to be alone right now." He stepped aside, let her enter. She sat in a chair by the window, looked out at the street. Jake sat on the edge of the bed. $5,000, she said. That's more money than Henry ever gave me in 5 years of marriage. I could go anywhere. Do anything. Where will you go?" "I don't know. East, maybe. Back to St. Louis. I have a sister there. Haven't seen her since I left with Henry." She turned to look at him. "What about you?" "Haven't figured that out yet. You could come with me." "To St. Louis." Jake was quiet. The offer hung in the air between them, heavy with possibility. He barely knew this woman. They'd spent one night running and fighting for their lives. That wasn't the same as knowing someone. But there was something there, a connection forged in fire. "I don't know if I'm the going to St. Louis type," he finally said. "No, you're the riding into Hell's Canyon type." She smiled, but it was sad. "I'm not asking you to marry me, Jake. I'm asking if you want to try being something other than alone." Before he could answer, glass shattered downstairs. Someone screamed. Jake was on his feet instantly, grabbing his gun from where he'd left it on the dresser. Claire stood, face pale. "They said they got all of them," she whispered. "Stay here." Jake moved into the hallway. Other doors were opening, confused guests looking out. He went to the stairs, looked down into the lobby. 3 men stood there, guns drawn. Not scorpions. Different. Harder. Professional. One of them had the hotel clerk on his knees, gun pressed to his head. The man in the center, tall and lean, with a scar running from his eye to his jaw, looked up at the staircase. His eyes found Jake's. "Jake Carter," the man said. His voice was cold, empty of emotion. "Been looking for you. Name's Ray Sutton. Cole Briggs was my brother." Everything clicked into place. The pardon had been public record. Anyone could have found out, and Briggs's family would have wanted revenge. "Briggs got what he deserved," Jake said, keeping his voice steady. His gun was in his hand, but not raised. Not yet. Maybe.
"But you killed family."
That means something to people like me. Sutton gestured with his gun toward the clerk. Now you come down here nice and slow, or I start shooting everybody in this hotel until you do. Starting with this man. Jake calculated odds. 3 armed men downstairs. Civilians in the lobby and in rooms around him. A shootout here would get innocent people killed. He couldn't live with that. Let him go, Jake said. I'll come down. Jake? No. Claire's voice behind him. She'd followed him out, had his rifle in her hands. They'll kill you. They'll kill everyone if I don't. He started down the stairs, hands visible, gun hanging loose in his right hand. Sutton watched him come, a small smile on his scarred face. The other 2 men shifted position, covering different angles. Professional. They'd done this before. Jake reached the bottom step. 10 feet separated him from Sutton. The other 2 men were flanking, weapons trained on him. The clerk was sobbing quietly, praying. Drop the gun, Sutton said. Jake's mind raced through scenarios. He could shoot Sutton, but the other 2 would kill him before he could turn. He could dive for cover, but they'd shoot the clerk. There was no good option. Only bad ones. Then Marshal Coleman walked through the hotel's front door, shotgun in hand. Evening, Ray, the marshal said conversationally, like they'd met for drinks. Heard you were in the territory. Figured you'd find your way here. Sutton didn't turn, kept his eyes on Jake. This isn't your concern, Marshal. Family business. It is my concern when you threaten civilians in my town. Coleman raised the shotgun slightly. Now I know you boys are fast. Probably faster than me. But this is a greener scattergun loaded with buckshot, and at this range, I'll take at least 2 of you with me when I go. Question is, which 2 want to die tonight? The room went silent. Nobody moved. Jake watched Sutton's eyes, saw him calculating the same odds Jake had run. The difference was, Coleman had changed the math. 3 against 2, Sutton finally said. Still in our favor. 3 against 3, Claire said from the top of the stairs. She had Jake's rifle aimed at one of the flanking men. Her hands were steady. And I already killed 1 man tonight. What's 2 more? She was bluffing. Jake knew it. But Sutton didn't. The standoff stretched. 5 people with guns, all aimed, all ready. 1 wrong move and everyone died. The hotel clerk whimpered, tried to crawl away. The man holding him pressed the gun harder against his skull. Then Sutton did something unexpected. He lowered his gun. Smart man, Coleman said. Not done, Sutton replied, but not here. Not now, not like this. He looked at Jake. You and me, Carter. Tomorrow at dawn. Just us. No law, no witnesses. You win, I leave and never come back. I win, you're dead, and my brother's been avenged. Fair fight. No, Claire said, but Jake was already nodding. Where? Old Mission, 2 miles north of town. Everyone knows it. Sutton smiled. Bring your gun, cowboy. I'll bring mine. We'll see who's faster. He holstered his weapon. The other 2 men did the same. They walked out of the hotel like nothing had happened, boots echoing on the wooden floor. The clerk collapsed, sobbing with relief. Coleman lowered his shotgun, turned to Jake. You don't have to do this. I can arrest them. On what charge? They didn't do anything yet. They threatened you. And now they've challenged me to a fair fight. You can't arrest a man for that. Jake looked up at Claire, saw the fear in her eyes. But if I don't show, they'll come back. They'll keep coming. This ends tomorrow, one way or another. Coleman sighed, looked old and tired. Men like Sutton don't fight fair, even when they say they will. You're good with that gun? Good enough. Hope so. Because Ray Sutton's killed 11 men in duels. He's one of the fastest draws in the territory. The marshal headed for the door, paused. Get some rest. Dawn comes early. After he left, Claire came down the stairs. She set the rifle against the wall, walked to Jake. Without a word, she wrapped her arms around him, held tight. He held her back, felt her shaking. You don't have to do this, she whispered. Yeah, I do. Then I'm coming with you, Claire. Don't argue. You rode into Hell's Canyon for me. I'm watching your back at the mission. She pulled away, looked up at him. Her eyes were wet but fierce. We started this together. We end it together. Jake wanted to argue. Wanted to tell her to stay safe, stay away. But he saw the determination in her face and knew it would be useless. She was coming, and nothing he said would change that. Together then, he said. They went back to their rooms. Jake tried to sleep but couldn't. He lay in the dark, listening to the town settle into night, thinking about the morning, about Sutton's scarred face and cold eyes. About 11 dead men who'd been foolish enough to draw against him. Maybe Jake would be number 12. Or maybe Sutton would. Only one way to find out. Dawn was 3 hours away. Part 5, Jake stood in the mission courtyard as the sun broke free of the eastern hills. The old building had been abandoned for 20 years, its adobe walls crumbling, its roof collapsed. Wooden crosses tilted in an overgrown cemetery behind it. The place smelled of dust and death. Fitting. Ray Sutton waited 50 feet away, standing loose and relaxed like this was just another morning. His hand rested near his holster, not touching it. Not yet. His 2 men flanked him 10 paces back. Jake had made them check their guns with Marshal Coleman, who stood at the mission entrance with his shotgun. The marshal would make sure this stayed one-on-one. Claire stood beside Coleman. Jake had tried one more time to make her stay in town. She'd told him if he said another word about it, she'd shoot him herself. So she was here, watching, holding Jake's rifle. If Sutton's men tried anything, she'd be ready. "You showed," Sutton said. "Good. Means you got honor. Even if you are a killer. Your brother was a killer too, and a liar. And he got my brother hanged for crimes he didn't commit. Family's family. Don't matter what he did, it matters to me." Sutton smiled. "Then let's settle it. You ready?" Jake checked his gun one more time. 6 rounds, fully loaded. He holstered it, let his hand drop to his side, ready. Simple rules. We draw when I count 3. First man down loses. No do-overs, no second chances. We clear? Clear. Sutton's men backed up, giving them room. The marshal shifted his shotgun, making sure everyone saw it. The morning was quiet. No birds sang. No wind blew. Just silence in the beating of Jake's heart. "One," Sutton said. Jake's breathing slowed. His vision narrowed. Everything that wasn't Sutton faded away. The crumbling mission, the watching men, even Claire. Just him and Sutton and the guns they carried. 2. Jake's hand tensed, ready. He watched Sutton's eyes, not his hand. The eyes told you everything. When a man was going to draw, his eyes changed, got distant, focused, dead. They both drew. Jake was fast. Faster than he'd ever been. His hand blurred to the holster, gripped the gun, pulled it free. He saw Sutton doing the same, saw the other man's weapon, clear leather. Time stretched, everything happening in fragments. The gun rising, the hammer thumbing back, the barrel coming level. Jake fired first. By a fraction of a second, maybe less. The bullet took Sutton high in the shoulder, spun him sideways. But Sutton didn't fall. He stayed on his feet, brought his gun around, fired back. Jake felt something punch into his left side, felt the hot sting of lead tearing through flesh. He fired again. This shot caught Sutton in the chest, dead center. The man's legs buckled. Sutton went down on one knee, tried to raise his gun. Failed. It fell from his fingers. He looked up at Jake with those cold, dead eyes. Blood bubbled on his lips. "Fast," he whispered. Then he fell forward and didn't move. Jake stood there, guns still raised, waiting for another threat. Sutton's 2 men had their hands up, backing away slowly. The marshal was already moving forward, checking Sutton's body. Claire ran to Jake. "You're hit," she said, seeing the blood spreading on his shirt. "I'm all right." But he wasn't. The adrenaline was fading, and the pain was starting, sharp and insistent. He pressed his hand to the wound, felt blood seeping between his fingers. "Doc's waiting in town," Coleman said. "You need to go now." Sutton's men carried their leader's body away, loaded it on a horse. They didn't say anything, didn't threaten. Just left. The vendetta was over. Sutton had challenged Jake to a fair fight and lost. Even men like them honored that. The ride back to Silver Creek was agony. Every bump sent pain lancing through Jake's side. Claire rode close, one hand on his back, keeping him steady in the saddle. They made it to the doctor's office, and Jake half fell through the door. The doctor, a gray-haired woman with steady hands and sharp eyes, got him on a table, cut away his shirt. The bullet had gone clean through, in and out. She cleaned it, stitched it, wrapped it tight, told him he was lucky. Told him to rest, not to move much for a week. Told him he'd be fine. Jake felt anything but fine. He'd killed another man. 12 years old, his father had taught him to shoot. Told him a gun was a tool, not a toy, to never point it at anything he didn't mean to kill. Jake had followed that rule his whole life. Now he'd killed 3 men. Briggs, the man in the canyon, and Sutton. 3 lives ended by his hand. Claire stayed with him as the doctor worked. Held his hand when the stitches went in, didn't flinch at the blood. When it was done, she helped him to a room the doctor kept for recovering patients. A narrow bed, a window with thin curtains. He lay down carefully, feeling every movement. Get some sleep, Claire said. You staying? I'm staying. She pulled a chair close to the bed, sat down. Jake closed his eyes, let exhaustion take him. He dreamed of canyons and bullets and blood. Woke once in the night to find Claire still there, dozing in the chair. He went back to sleep. Morning came gray and cold. Jake woke to find sunlight streaming through the window and Claire gone. Panic touched him briefly until he saw the note on the chair. Getting breakfast. Back soon. The doctor came in, checked his wound, declared it healing well, told him again to rest. Jake nodded but knew he wouldn't. He'd never been good at sitting still. Claire returned with food. Real food, not trail rations. Eggs, bacon, toast, coffee. They ate together in comfortable silence. When they finished, she finally spoke. Marshal Coleman finished the paperwork this morning. The reward's official. $5,000. You can have it ready by this afternoon. That's good. I bought a stagecoach ticket. Leaves tomorrow for St. Louis. Jake felt something sink in his chest. Tomorrow. I told you I was going. Told you that first night. I know. She looked at him and he saw something complicated in her eyes. Gratitude, affection, sadness. Come with me. To St. Louis. Why not? You got a pardon? You're not running anymore. You could start over. We could start over. Together. Jake looked out the window at Silver Creek, at the street with its wooden sidewalks and glass windows and church steeple, at the people walking past, living normal lives. Lives that didn't involve canyons or gunfights or men trying to kill them. I'm not a St. Louis kind of man, Claire. I wouldn't fit there. You don't know that. Yeah, I do. He turned back to her. I've been running for 3 years. Running from what I did. From who I am. Going to St. Louis would just be another kind of running I need to stop. Need to figure out who I am when I'm not afraid or angry or running. Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them back. Then what will you do? Don't know yet. Maybe stay here for a while. Maybe move on when I'm healed. But I need to do it alone. Need to face whatever comes without someone else to protect or hide behind. She nodded slowly, understanding even if she didn't like it. You saved my life. You know that, right? They would have killed me at first light, just like they said. But you rode into Hell's Canyon for a stranger. You'd have done the same. No, I wouldn't have. She stood, leaned down, kissed him softly. Thank you, Jake Carter, for everything. She left then, walked out of the room without looking back. Jake watched her go, felt the ache of it. Not love. They hadn't known each other long enough for that. But something. Possibility, maybe. A door closing before they'd seen what was on the other side. He spent the rest of the day in bed, letting his body heal. Marshal Coleman came by in the evening, brought Jake's share of the reward. $2,500 in cash. Jake stared at it. More money than he'd ever held at once. What will you do with it? Coleman asked. Haven't decided. Town could use a good man. Someone who's not afraid to stand up when needed. Someone who's fast with a gun but doesn't want to use it. Someone like you. You offering me a job? Deputy's badge pays $40 a month, room and board included. It's steady work. Honest work. Coleman smiled. And you'd be helping people instead of running from them. Jake thought about it. About wearing a badge. About being on the right side of the law instead of the wrong one. About making something of himself instead of just drifting. Let me think about it, he said. Fair enough. Offer stands. After Coleman left, Jake got up carefully, walked to the window. The sun was setting, painting the sky red and gold. He saw Claire out on the street, walking toward the hotel with a small bag, getting ready for tomorrow's stagecoach. She didn't look back. That night, Jake couldn't sleep again. Not from pain this time, but from thoughts spinning in his head. He kept seeing Sutton's cold eyes, kept feeling the weight of the gun in his hand, kept hearing his father's voice from years ago. A gun is a tool, not a toy. Use it right, and it protects. Use it wrong, and it destroys. Jake had used his gun to save Claire, to defend himself. But he'd also used it to kill, to take revenge, to end lives. Both things were true at once, and he didn't know how to reconcile them. Dawn came again. Jake dressed carefully, moving slowly. His side pulled and ached but held. The stitches were doing their job. He walked to the window, looked out. The stagecoach was already loading. He saw Claire climb aboard, saw her look toward the doctor's office one last time. He didn't wave. She wouldn't have seen him anyway. The stagecoach pulled away, heading east. toward St. Louis, toward Claire's sister and a new life and everything Jake couldn't give her. He watched until it disappeared, then turned away from the window. Marshal Coleman's offer echoed in his mind.
A deputy's badge. Honest work.
A chance to be something other than a drifter and a killer. Jake walked to the mirror the doctor kept on the wall, stared at his reflection. Same face as yesterday. Same scars. Same eyes. But something felt different. Lighter, maybe. Like he'd set down a weight he'd been carrying too long. He found Coleman at the marshal's office an hour later. The older man looked up from paperwork, raised an eyebrow. "Come to give me an answer?" "I'll take the job," Jake said, "on one condition." "Name it." "First time I think I'm doing it wrong, first time I think the badge is turning me into something I'm not, I walk away. No questions, no obligations." Coleman considered this, then nodded. "That's fair. Most men don't have the sense to know when they're in the wrong place." He pulled open a drawer, took out a silver star. "This was my deputy's. He moved to California last month. It's yours if you want it." Jake took the badge, felt the weight of it. Cool metal, simple design, just a star with the word deputy etched across it. But it meant something. Responsibility. Purpose. A reason to be somewhere instead of just drifting through. He pinned it to his shirt. "Welcome to the job," Coleman said. "Your first assignment is easy. Ride out to the Harrison Ranch and tell old man Harrison that his fence is on town property and he needs to move it back 3 feet. Should be a nice, boring day." Jake smiled. Boring sounded good. After Hell's Canyon and Sutton and everything else, boring sounded perfect. He walked out of the office into the morning sun. Silver Creek spread before him, ordinary and peaceful. Somewhere far to the east, Claire was riding toward St. Louis. Somewhere south, the Scorpions were being hanged or locked away forever. Somewhere in the past, Cole Briggs and Ray Sutton were dead and gone. But Jake was here, alive, healed enough to ride, wearing a badge that meant something. It wasn't redemption. He didn't know if such a thing existed, but it was a start. A chance to do something right instead of just running from what was wrong. He untied his horse from the rail, swung into the saddle carefully. His side protested, but held. He turned the horse west, toward the Harrison Ranch, and a fence that needed moving, and whatever came after that. Behind him the morning shadows shortened as the sun climbed. Ahead the road stretched out across open ground. Jake nudged the horse forward and rode toward it, toward the ordinary work of an ordinary day in an ordinary town. After everything he'd been through, that felt like enough. Maybe more than enough. Maybe exactly what he needed.